I am still in the preparation phase of the Babylonian works, the Enuma Elish, as we go through that and work it through in our mind, actually take that path. My wife is she's typing it up for me. There's a specific one that I wanted to use that I can't find online anywhere. I'm going to have it put into a document. She was watching me try to dictate and said, honey, here, let me type it for you. So my wonderful wife is taking care of that. In the meantime, what I want to do is more preparation work. We have to read this conceptually. This is a big deal. We have to know this process, and I can talk you through that. Let's do that in this video. My name is Dan Paulson. We are learning how to read the ancient material. All of it is conceptual. If we were reading Aesop's fables, we would know that each and every one of these is not a true story, that it's a fable carrying a message. We are not told in other material, religious or mythical material, that it's doing that, but it is. And you know what? By that I mean very specifically that we get into religious type of material and suddenly that is no longer interpreted. It's treated as true. The outer shell is being treated as all there is there. Meanwhile, there is something in here, but we cannot find it unless we read it conceptually. Do you know that if you read the Enuma Elish and then if you read Genesis, you will find that they are the same story conceptually? People cannot see that. Why? Because they cannot read conceptually. So, and let's talk about that. It's a big deal. They were doing this all their lives. They weren't taking a few minutes and doing this. They knew something that we don't. We have to stop and figure this out. Okay? There's a way to extract the teaching from here that if we all used the same process, we would all extract the same teaching. We wouldn't be all over the place with it. So, what is conceptual reading? Conceptual reading means that there is something in the verbiage hidden in there. You could say something that doesn't mean what it sounds like at face value, but there's something in there. You could say something as simple as someone's got bats in their belfry. That's a conceptual idea that they're a little off. Something's not quite right there. Their elevator doesn't quite make it to the highest floor. That dates me as a Dr. Demento person, doesn't it? From that era. Same thing though. Yeah, something's not quite right up there. So that's what I mean by conceptual. There's things that are in verbiage that are put in such a way that you have to figure out what it means. And they were doing it as a part of their medium. Okay. This is really big stuff. So we have to learn how to do it. Let's practice with a couple of easy ones to see what they're doing. Ones that I'll make up, then we'll make some comparisons to some real world ones. Then I'm going to do a big reveal in here showing how there's a really hidden part of the Enuma Elish that we can find in Genesis that is like, whoa, I didn't see that. But the concept, you'll see it. Okay, let's get started. First of all, we have to establish something really firm up front, that as we're doing this, as we're going through this type of material, the very specific stuff that I'm going to be going through, that it's going to interpret in the psyche of the individual. If they want to read it conceptually and they want to make it theirs, then this has to interpret in your own psyche, that there are parts of the story that you connect with. It is about you. So I'm going to make up an example right here, one that but probably all of us know of. And that is if we've had something in the past that is unresolved. We've got something somehow that's hanging over us that's bothersome. And we keep worrying about it. We keep having issues. It might have been something that happened long ago or more recently. But we can all see instances where if we're mentally grasping something, and that means having a concern, a worry, a fear, a shame, anything like that, a memory with an emotional attachment to it, that we continue to experience that over and over again. And people that are acting out because of something that is unresolved. And we want to pass that lesson around. We want to pass that into the population. However, the vast majority of the population is saying, I don't like that lesson. I'm mad because they did this to me, not because I'm holding on to something. Meanwhile, we need to get that message out there that if you're holding on to something, that's the real problem. So we're going to put it in ways that it's going to carry out in the population in verbiage that they will not understand that there's something in there. Only the person that knows the specific technique will know that it is a verse about them. Let's make a couple of them up. Like I said, these don't have any baggage to them. Then we'll go to some baggage-ridden ones and see the comparison. Okay, I'm going to start by identifying what my lesson is, what I want to put in here. I want to put in this lesson here, you will cycle in pain over the issues that you have unresolved. Of course, we're going to cycle in good things too. We're going to cycle over all of the issues that we carry. We're going to live through those experiences, but we don't care about all the good stuff. It's only the hurt stuff. So in this case, the teaching is for healing. That's what we're going after. So we're going to be cycling in pain over the issues that we have unresolved. That's what I want to put in here. I'm going to do it like this. An anchored ship cannot sail. The chained elephant cannot walk free. All right, I don't like the visual on that last one, honestly, but it's reality in the world, isn't it? And they're free pictures from Pixabay, so that's what I just downloaded. But it gets the idea across. What we're trying to convey is that if you're attached to something, you can see what we've got going on there. Now, you put that out in the population, and what's going to happen is that people are going to say, okay, that's fine, I'll pass that around. As long as your ship is anchored, you're not going anywhere. Or as long as you got your beast chained up out back, your dog or whatever, the goat, something somewhere, it can't escape. You can put anything you want to in there. So a person can come along, though, and begin an interpretation process. Even though there's something nested in there, what we're going to run into, especially in religious verse, is that people are going to be all over the outside trying to interpret it, making it about them. They are going to interpret it, but they're not looking for what lesson was put in there. They're looking for what it means to them. So that's the problem. They're going to keep working that verse until it's meaningful to them, not knowing that there was something actually put in there that they should have been looking for instead. But it's designed in a way to make people feel good and carry it in a religious verse. So anyway, somebody could look at that and say, if they were interpreting it even without religion, they could look at that and say, you know what, that's a metaphor. I know what that means. That's about me. I'm the ship. I'm the beast. As long as I'm hanging on to my old relationships, my old patterns, my habits, whatever the case may be, my old job, that I'm not moving on. I'm not going to have the success I want in life. I need to move on and get an education. I need to do something different. And you would look at that and go, oh, that's exactly true, isn't it? And it would be true. It's a truism. But is it the core teaching? Nope, it's a true teaching. Somebody else might interpret the same verse and say that, you know what, it means that you're supposed to anchor. It's not just bad stuff. It's when I was unwanted, and I was raised in an orphanage, and I was abused and hurt and didn't have any stability. Not until I got religion or found a family or somehow got hooked into a community someplace did I find a solid place to be. And you would look at that and go, wow, that sounds good too. But it doesn't interpret the same way. We're seeing conflict now in the way the verse interprets because people are not reading them in the right way. So they're finding concepts in there. But the way you find the concept is understanding it's about your mind up here, your personal search only. I'm going to grab a couple of examples. You may not be aware of this, so let me just tell you very quickly. I'm going to use something from the Tao Te Ching from China. It's a very short verse, and the Dhammapada from Buddha. And I will tell you what these are, because these are big, huge religions, as is Christianity. If you were to look at Jesus and say, can you distill it? What is his one pivotal lesson? Sermon on the Mount. Tao Te Ching. What is Lao Tzu's pivotal lesson? The Tao Te Ching. Taoists. Buddhists. What is Buddha's pivotal core teaching? The Dhammapada. So these are short pieces like Jesus would be that right there. The religions are big, but this is the core right here. Let's look here. Okay, from Buddha's Dhammapada, the verse 1, very first. This is the second half after there's a mental declaration. It starts off that we are products of our thinking. And then it goes on to say, if a man speaks or acts with an evil thought, pain follows him as the wheel follows the foot of the ox that draws the carriage. Can you see the lesson in there? The evil thought is something that has happened at one time. It's analogous. It doesn't mean that a conscious evil thought. It means that something has happened that is evil at a deeper level that is causing evil in your life today. So if we're maintaining that evil thought, then pain follows as a wheel, which does what? Goes round and around. It cycles. Follows the foot of the ox that draws the carriage. In verses like this, we are component parts of it. We're the ship. We're the elephant. We are the ox that draws the carriage. And pain follows us. Let me just shift this into a hard interpretation. We need to do these in our own heads, but this is what I'm going to do this one for you. If a person lives with an unresolved hurt, then pain follows them in life, and it appears in cycles. That is what Buddha is telling us. And what were we telling people? You will cycle in pain over the issues you have unresolved. How does Lao Tzu tell us this right in the beginning as well? And at this point, you can tell what I'm doing is I'm looking for verbiage that just holds that one concept, that concept of cyclical pain. We know that that's there now. All right, Lao Tzu, caught in desire, you see only the manifestations. This one sounds, it's beautiful. It's a different style. The caught in desire, this is not physical desire. This is not mental desire. These are always spiritual things. He starts off telling us it's mental. So we've already been told and instructed before we get to this verse, it's a mental process and to turn inward with it. And that caught in desire, you see only the manifestations. So that would be like Buddha saying that if you've had an evil thought, then pain follows. This is saying caught in desire, caught in hanging on to something. It doesn't mean good, bad, or anything. Caught in hanging on to something, you see only the manifestations. Caught in the desire, you see the manifestations of it. We need to know that these are mental, and this is doing the same thing. This is showing us the cyclical repeat. And what are we looking for? Painful things. We're not going to stop when we're happy and go, oh my gosh, how do I resolve this? We're going to do that when we're hurt. So that's what this is primarily for, although this is teaching us that we're a product of both good and bad. But caught in desire of whatever that is, you see the manifestations of it. Jesus has entered the teaching arena. We're looking at Matthew here in chapter 7. Sorry for the way it looks. I've got things going on. Do you follow my work? 7, right here we're talking about. Judge is said 7 times. What we want to judge with is purity. Judge not that you not be judged. Judge not that you not be judged. For with what judgment you judge, you shall be judged. And with what measure you mete, it shall be measured to you again. Okay, we have to unwrap a couple of things, including the Old English. But it's telling us to not judge things. And judging things means the same as naming things or taking on the mental qualities. If you judge something, I hate it, I'm ashamed of it, I am whatever, we're going to continue to experience it. For with what judgment we judge, with whatever we give our memories, we shall be judged. And with what measure we meet, it shall be measured to you again. So we've got this, it looks like karma, and that's exactly what it is. This is cause and effect. This is cause and effect in the background. And it's based in the nature of the way we're holding our emotional memories. Judge not that you not be judged. This is don't judge your life experiences, not judge other people. That means judge your life experiences that you have put away that have all of these emotional attachments to them because you're continuing to live through them. You're continuing to live through the things that you're holding. What did we tell people? You will cycle in pain over the issues you have unresolved. Those are the things that we've judged, and now we're going to be judged as a result of them. We're going to plain language all of this stuff. They've got it nested in ways that are very tricky sounding, but we can pull it together. We just have to work it out mentally and understand that they're using slightly different styles and different analogs, but they're always getting to the same place. We're looking for the concepts. Do you see cycles of pain is what we're looking for in here? We're not looking for wheels. We're not looking for manifestations. We're not looking for things like that. We're looking for the fact that something continually arises from an original derogatory source, and it's hurtful. That's what we see in the background. Might as well go for the deep dive, huh? This is Genesis right in the beginning. They've got more things going on, but this is the punishment being doled out right after first sin. So this is actually this is the first sin and punishment, chapter 3. We get down here to where God is punishing them. To the woman. Now what we're going to do here is switch to a mental hierarchy. We now have something else going on where the consciousness is the male, the woman is the inner being. Childbirth is what we have that emerges from us. We're going to continue to give birth to the things that we have stored inside. It's a way of holding the idea that something is going to continue to emerge from a certain source. To the woman, to the inner self, he said, I will make your pangs in childbirth exceedingly great. In pain you shall bring forth children. Okay, right there it is. There's the pain in a cyclical manner. How often? Whenever you bring forth children. Whenever it happens is when it happens. Whenever that wheel comes around. Whenever that manifestation happens. Whenever that child is born. Whenever that pounding holes in the drywall reemerges. Then let your desire be for your husband. This is where people get messed up on this. This is the setting up the mental hierarchy. Your husband, and he shall rule over you. The The inner self is a product of the conscious thinking. We need to know that. Okay, I'm not going to go on with the rest of this, but you see that suddenly we get into thicker material with additional things going on. Let's keep looking at our original concept here too. You will cycle in pain over the issues you have unresolved. We need many ways of getting this out there. You will cycle in pain over the issues you have unresolved. You will continue to have pain in childbirth. It'll get worse. And you're a product of your thinking put in a very different package. What I want to do now is look at something different. This is why it's so important to understand the conceptual idea of things. There's something I want to look at very quick in the Enuma Elish, even though I haven't started interpreting or doing the video interpretation yet. I want to show you something in there right now and do a comparison with Genesis and show that the same thing is happening that doesn't even look like it. But now that we're seeing conceptual ways of looking at it, we should be able to go, okay, now I got it. Now I got it. Let's take a look. And, I hope everybody's putting together somewhere in the background the idea that I'm suggesting that Jesus, Lao Tzu, Buddha, Lao Tzu's name, Lao Tzu means old master. Nobody even knows if anybody existed here. What there is a common core teaching. We need to be looking for that teaching. I'm going to start by bringing your attention to the very beginning of the Enuma Elish. This is from Tablet 1, and let's just read from the beginning, this first part right here. At a time when even the glories above had yet to be named, and unuttered was the word for the world which lay beneath. It was then that the first being Apsu, who was their source, and the progenitor Tiamat, the mother who gave birth to all, intermingled their waters, producing neither field nor marsh. Okay, Apsu right here is the creator source, and there's a Tiamat who is a mother of all there. Now that's not exactly the same as Genesis. I want to read from Genesis. In the beginning God created the heaven and the earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep, and the Spirit of God moved upon the face of the waters. Okay, so we have some very similar sounding verbiage back and forth, but in the Bible, of course, God is by himself. There's no mother with God. So there's something a little bit different going on. But what I want to point out right here is that Apsu is the creator in the Enuma Elish. Apsu is going to represent in our own path, as we're interpreting this material, is the higher self, the higher awareness. We're born living through there, but then we develop life and we live through our memories, and we want to get back to living through there. Apsu represents that early part of us. Now, as we go through, we're going to find some things like there was nothing Apsu could do to mitigate their carousing. I apologize. The interpretation is going to get much thicker than this, but for right now, let me just do an overview. So Apsu, what we've got here is that things are happening, life is getting confusing, there's a lot of internal ruckus, people can't sleep and rest, and Apsu, the source of the mighty gods, is getting ready to do battle. But what happens is he gets shut down. Let me find something down here. Let me find it. I'm moving ahead. For when he chanted it, he calmed the turbulent waters. The abounding sleep overcame Apsu. So Apsu is being put to sleep here. He became pacified. This is the creator God. He became pacified. He caused him to enter a deep sleep, seeped in tranquility, while the officer Mumu, his advisor, was left in a trance. Then Ea moved his belt and took his crown from his head, and took his mantle of brilliance, and dressed himself in it. He then forced Apsu down under his feet and crushed him. This is the original God. This is the origin here. And bound Mumu, lying him down over him crosswise. Then he established his own residence on top of the Apsu. Okay, I'm going to stop right there and let's just talk about what's happening. As we get into the interpretation here, this represents that idea that our higher awareness was there, then we have life experiences. Some things are going to have to be interpreted in here as we get into the book that's going to show how that goes, but that higher awareness goes away. You know what? I want to restate that. It never goes away. It's always there. In fact, we constantly interact with it unknowingly. What I mean is that we're no longer living through it. It is no longer our primary means of our conscious experience in life from a higher self. We are now living through the memories. That upper self is still here, but we have to let go of the memories. So, yeah, let me rephrase that. I got to be careful how I say things. The higher awareness is never gone. It's always there. It's just plugged up. Later on in life, what the goal is for the people that are seekers is to live through that higher awareness again, is to understand that we become products of our memories that don't feel good. This feels good out here, but we're not living through the higher awareness. We're living through our memories. There's a point in time in life, unaware, we just go off and experience life. Apsu would normally, in this case, disappear. As this goes along, Apsu is going to reemerge later. Apsu is going to be saved. We'll save that for ahead. So Apsu, in this case, was taken over, then rendered ineffective as all of this goes on, and then later on he's saved, he comes back. Now, if we go to the Bible, we're not going to find anything remotely like that, are we? There is no point in time where anybody controls God or puts God down or anything like that. God is the uppermost of all. The easiest place to see the same thing going on, remember, we're looking for conceptual ideas. This story, the Enuma Elish, represents me. So if I'm going to treat Genesis in the same way, what I'm going to suggest is that God puts me, I am Abram and Sarai, in the beginning in Canaan, where there's a famine. I don't have any life experience. But the story is held in such a way that because of the famine, we leave there and go to Egypt, and Sarai marries Pharaoh. We get slaves and animals as a result. Pharaoh finds out later, due to plagues, that he made a mistake due to our lies, and sends us on. So there's this whole big story going on that you go, well, that's pretty bizarre. Plus, God just created everything and came back and couldn't manage this. What you're going to find right here is that God in the Abrahamic story is also the higher awareness. And Abram and Sarai are the conscious and the subconscious. And you know what? We lose contact with the higher awareness. We go off and live life later. What happens? We're going to have plagues as a result. And we go, oh, I got to leave the past. I don't like this here. The story is a metaphorical representation of a human life cycle, not a true story. Or maybe it is a true story, but if it is, it doesn't matter. It's a metaphorical representation today of a stage of a human life. This represents us disappearing. Now, what we see conceptually there, if you look at it, you go, why would God just disappear? They're brand new, just starting out, and then disappears and doesn't come back later until after the fact. You know why? Because that's the higher awareness. We lose it to begin with. We don't know it. It comes back after the fact. Son of a, I got to do something. I got cyclical pain. See it all wrapped together? This is what I'm going to work on as we get into the Enuma Elish. So I hope you're ready for that. But I want you to get your brain ready for that. I was talking with somebody recently. I'd mentioned and used it in here, the Tao Te Ching, that very first verse, the Tao that can be told is not the eternal Tao. That is a 100% mentally interactive step right there that must be understood. If you understand that step right there, you're going to get the rest of it. You went and asked the guru what life is about, and that's the very first thing he tells you right there. That's the doorway into the interpretation of the material. When a Taoist tells you it's something that means it's mysterious and you can never figure it out, there's a Taoist that doesn't know what they have there. Yeah. I will say that Christians who hate one another and don't follow the teachings of Jesus, I would put them in the same category. This is prevalent. There's a teaching that if everybody followed, we would all cease to be dividers. Okay. I need to bring this to an end. The primary purpose of this is when I get into the Babylonian stuff, it's going to get bigger, it's going to get thick. Remembering they lived through this. To go through it very quickly is to not give it the time that's necessary to understand it. It really is a big package to explore. And yeah, remembering they were living through this. They were not They didn't treat it like we did. This was their day-to-day things. This was their media, as it were. The stories were. So it was really big to them, and it's important for us to look at them we need to give them more time. We need to look at them deeper than what we are. And, but there's a way to apply life experience to them and then see what something is going on at a deeper core, and that the way to that purity, it's like the God is somewhere up here, not out there. So we're looking to make that transition and figure out what's going on. But I see something in here that it's important, but the only way to find it is to do that, to understand that everything needs to be interpreted, that all of it is conceptual. But if you look at it long enough, you can start seeing where pieces go. I've played with this stuff for years now, just thought experiment, and got it all pretty well where you can look at it and see that that's what they have going on. It took a long time to figure it out, but when you figure it out, it's like, oh, this is actually simple. This is a human life cycle, and they're creating a story on it. Not many people are going to do it. Here's how you came about. You're going to have cyclical pain. You're going to have to turn inward. You're going to have to cross a threshold. You're going to have to go spend time in the desert or something that is clearing out, consuming only what is necessary, or in some versions, it's defeating an enemy. All of those are going to be component parts that are hard to see in a sequence, but they're there. But the more you read it conceptually, the more they emerge. If you don't read it conceptually, you can't see them. So that's it. If you want to see what's going on, to play the story out, you have to read it conceptually. Otherwise, it won't work. And it has to happen in the mind of each individual that's doing it. It's a very personal, individual understanding. The Tao that can be told is not the eternal Tao. That one right there, mentally interactive, what does that mean? Find the other side of that. The Tao that is experienced personally is the eternal Tao. We can talk about it all day long. That's fine. We're talking about the real deal. This is what has to happen. But it's not eternal until a person actually uses it to change their life. It's just a pile of nouns and verbs on the table right now. You got to pick it up and do something with it. Mentally interactive, all of it. All right. See you in, hopefully the next video will be getting into the Enuma Elish. I don't know how long it'll take. I think there's a lot that I don't understand about it because it's just too old. It is. But we can see the big parts easy. All right. See you in that video.